Welcome, everyone, to the On Time, On Target Financial Thought Leader Series. And it's my privilege today to bring you Jorge Aldrete, who is my personal guy for all things mortgages. I refer him to my family, my friends, my clients. So there's no higher compliment that I can give this person. So I'm thrilled to have him with us today. So Jorge, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about your backstory so the listeners can kind of get to know who they're listening to today. Go ahead.
Sounds good. I was born and raised in Mexico, and then came to the States when I was 13 years old to a tennis academy. I was in love with tennis back then, and so kind of tennis opened the doors for me. Yeah, tennis opened the doors for me here in the States. Ended up playing at Baylor University, and had a great run with tennis. Tried it a year professionally. Didn't work out. Didn't have that passion anymore. But tennis again opened up my world into having a competitive spirit and joined the mortgage industry pretty much a year after I finished college. So I've been here in Austin now for, what has it been, 16 years. My wife is from Austin. We got 3 kiddos. Just been in the industry for 19 years of doing mortgages. So continue to love it more and more, every single year. So,
all right, very nice. Now, what did you get a degree in finance, or what were you studying at Baylor?
Yeah, I graduated with the economics degree.
Economics, okay. And then did you go right into the business, or did you do some other stuff first before you?
No, initially after I graduated, I went to play professionally for a year, and once that wasn't working out, I decided to come back. I was waiting tables for a few months while I figured things out. My wife was still, wrapping up at the time, my fiance, right? And so she was wrapping up school. She still had a year left. After waiting tables, I sold cars. And during selling cars, I realized that one of my passions was to lead and motivate people. And so I wanted to become a manager in some sort of way. And I found a job with Washington Mutual Finance back in the day, which trained you to become a manager, and that was the beginning of my career.
Oh, very nice. So that's who you started with? Was the name you just put up there, the Washington?
That's what I started with.
Okay, so tell me about what it's like when you start in the industry. Are you literally the new guy walking in, and you've got like this boss sitting there watching you the whole time? Or are you kind of autonomous after you go through your training? What's life like as a new guy?
It was, and so that world was retail, and so we were in office cubicles. Boss could see me at all at all times, training me as well. I had a great boss at the time, a great manager that was training me to become a manager. That was the first step in that world, and so after not even a year, I was offered a position as a manager and ended up moving to Nacogdoches, Texas, which is funny to say that my daughter was born in Nacogdoches, because then both of my other kids were born here in Austin. But
right.
Moved to Nacogdoches and got promoted to Houston. And after Houston, I was still in the corporate world. There was just something that just kind of was giving me the idea, like, I need to be on the self-employed commission basis only. And after doing mortgage loans with Washington Mutual Finance for a couple of years, that's when I was like, let's give it a shot. So 2004 was the year that I started on doing mortgages only, pure focus, mortgages. Love dealing with people. How hard is it? It's very hard, but the beauty of it is you just go after it, right? Whatever you have to do, I had a 1-year-old kid at the time, so there was no other motivation other than to.
I love to hear that competitive edge and the tenacity. And my background's flying, and obviously that's a kind of key to success there as well. It's interesting. You said, it's funny you saying you have a kid born in Nacogdoches. I have 2 kids, and one's born in Montgomery, Alabama, and the other one's born in Eagle River, Alaska.
Wow.
So for my us military folk, as we bounce around, we got kids born all kinds of crazy places. So I get a funny look as well. Okay, so let me ask you a little bit. So before you went off kind of onto your own, you were just kind of a salary-based
Correct.
type person? Okay.
Salary plus commission. That was the.
Okay. And now off as your own, is that when you started with Elite Financing Group? Is when you started? Okay, tell us kind of that
No.
transition again.
So I found a great company at the time. It was a mortgage broker company called American Homefront Mortgage, and they opened the doors. I already had an idea of how to do mortgages, of course, coming down, and I did a lot of cold calling the first 5 years of being a mortgage originator. Just calling individuals that I knew probably had a house, a mortgage loan with a high interest rate at the time. If you remember, I mean, there was a lot of subprime loans being done. And so I would reach out, literally did a lot of research and would do calling on those people that had subprime loans to bring their interest rate down. And so that kept me alive for quite a few years. I didn't work with a lot of realtors. I'm going to get it done myself. I don't want to depend on anybody else to send me leads. So I wanted to get as many leads as I could myself. Right. And so that helped me out a lot. And then over time, of course, you start transitioning to realizing, okay, you got to build those referral sources. You know, my clientele is one of them. It's one of the biggest referral sources I have because I love dealing. The reason I joined the mortgage world was I was doing a lot of home equity loans back then and consolidating debt for those clients and putting them in a better, financial position at the time. And that's what I love doing. So being able to help clients, I just said, man, I would love to get this done and purchases as well. So you start learning a little bit more. And I wish I knew what I know now, back then. But it's like everything. I think the beauty of life is that it doesn't matter when you start and you start realizing bigger things can be done and bigger help. You can help more people. And so, life is, you still got time, I would say.
You bet. You said something interesting there about helping folks out by bringing their interest rates down. So I ask from a consumer basis now. So I get killed in my mail every day, right, with 5 different offers to refi. And I'm, the VA having a house, and I've had multiple houses under the VA loan. So I'm always getting the VA IRRL deals in the mail.
Right.
When you say cold calling and helping people out, is it public record what people's mortgages are, and the interest rates, or just the mortgages, or what's the inside scoop here? How do you know to call people?
Back then, no, it was just easy because I was in that subprime world with Washington Mutual Finance. Did a lot of home equity loans that were on the higher interest rate part of things, because it was doing loans for those individuals that had lower credit scores. So, our competition, I knew who the competition was for Washington Mutual Finance. And so I knew that by going to the county, just to give you an example, I would go to the county back in the day because they didn't have online records, right? So I would go to the county office, the county clerk's office. I would look that investor, I would search that investor and look all the loans that were done a certain year or however many years, and I will pull them all out, all the names, because the names and the address is public, right, of the deed of trust. And so then I would have to go and search on, what was it, get their phone numbers through whitepages.com or whatever it was, whoever had that available. And then after that, you have to go through the national do not call list to make sure that it wasn't on that it wasn't on that list, so you can call the client. And then I would call the client and told them, hey, I know you have a higher interest rate because your mortgage is with them. We'd love to help you out, refinance your house at whatever the rate was, right? 5% back in the day, or 5.5 or 6%, because I knew they were somewhere in between 8.5 to 13%.
Okay, so you couldn't see the interest rate, but you could see who the mortgage was through. Correct. Which told you as an expert in the field, okay, I know that their loans are coming in at this level and I can do better. So, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, and like you mentioned cold calling, or now that you have a team, is that still part of the business model, is to continue to cold call, or is it now you have enough referrals coming in, there's enough business?
No, well, I don't do that kind of cold calling anymore. I mean, now the cold calling that we do as a team is realtors and referral sources, I would say, to try and partner up with new agents or with new CPAs or new attorneys or financial advisors, in the sense of you want to partner up with those people that can refer you business. That's the kind of cold calling that we do now, not those clients, because those loans don't exist anymore. hopefully not, right? Hopefully
Right,
all those
right.
people that
Hopefully
did
not.
a loan refinance their house. So,
Right.
because there's been just better programs now, since then. So, but we don't do that. We don't focus on that. And I touch base with the clientele as much as once every 3 months. I was pretty horrible about one, for a long time. Again, I didn't know enough, right? I
Right.
just was killing what I needed to eat, to feed the family, right? And so I didn't have a system in place for so many years. My wife would even tell me, my wife joined the industry last year, and she's like, how have you been surviving for almost 20 years doing this? And, but it was always, I would try to provide a great experience with the client during the process, and enjoyed it, that people just kept calling me back for referrals, and so that it kind of worked. And so,
Yeah.
but you stay steady, you don't grow. That was the difference. And it wasn't until not too long ago, in the last 12 months, we did some new things that opened up our eyes, got some coaching as well. And again, I'm
Okay.
telling you, I mean, I'm 19 years in the business, and last year, on my 18th year, I found some new stuff that I'm like, man, I wish I would have
Right.
gotten coaching, from this individuals back then, because yeah, I would be in a different deal, but that's okay, right? So now I'm like, okay, where am I going to be 10 years down the road? And it's been phenomenal just to see my world that I've been in for so long in a completely different, with a different perspective. So
Right. And I hope that's what some listeners are getting out of this today, is hearing your words and realizing, constant student of the game, always trying to be better, and, learn as much as you can, as early as you can, because it'll pay off.
without a doubt.
Talk to me about what life was like from 2007 to 2009, when, the housing market is coming down. People are walking away from the old Ninja loan application. And I got one of those myself. I bought a house on December 1st of 2005. So, my timing was epically bad. But what was it like in the industry? Were you busy trying to undo all that, or was it, or is it kind of stagnant because nobody was moving? What was it like?
So as you see that the world's collapsing around you, right, in your own industry, a lot of wholesale lenders, a lot of lenders, I mean, just going bankrupt. I mean, we were seeing it day in, day out. I just focused. I've always created this world of Jorge's world, right? I'm like, there's always so many factors from the world, so many negativity, so many things happening. I mean, day in and day out. And so I've always been one to just say, put your head down or look forward and just
Right.
get things done. Just find a way. So believe it or not, from 2008 to 2010, 11, I mean, I had the best years I had. Up to that point in the industry, because I just focused on finding business, and whether it was refinances or it was purchases or building relationships with new realtors. I found some great realtor relationships during that time, and
Right.
so that kind of helped me, get through and become, I would say, establish myself a little bit better in the mortgage industry through those times, because I stayed strong, I stayed positive. My deal is to create a great experience with clients. Hopefully, you had a phenomenal experience with me at one point. But
I keep coming back, right? So
yes, I mean, which is the point, right? I mean, that to know that people can count on me for any kind of questions they had, even after the mortgage is done, is come back to me for whatever question you have on mortgage that's mortgage related. And so those times were really good for me. I had the best years, but it was because I didn't care. I mean, people kept telling me like, man, mortgage brokers are going to die. I mean, it's just not going to be the place to go. And you doubt it, but it got to the point where I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if my world were to die today, like, I'm going to find something else to do. So I never
right.
worried about it, in the sense like it's going to open up the doors to something else. And that's what I've always believed, right? That mentality.
Yeah. So has it been a similar experience with the pandemic, COVID-19 this year, to where there's kind of the, oh crap, all of a sudden in March, things started hitting the fan, if you will. But then interest rates came right back down to zero, which I imagine is a huge boon to the industry. So was it the same sort of thing during earlier this year, that you had plenty of business while everybody else was kind of
plenty
hurting?
of business? And that, and I'll be one to tell you that I honestly feel, I mean, we're fortunate, we're blessed, right? That our industry is exploding because of rates, and we're seeing historic low rates, you know, one month after another. Our company is breaking records month in and month out. My personal volume is going up and just increasing because, again, we found ways to implement systems in place to continue to grow. But we've taken this time, and I say this, when I brought my wife on board, she was a teacher for almost 20 years, and so
Okay.
brought her on board, brought her to the team, and so we have access to information that she loves to gather information in, watch videos, and pass it on to our real estate partners. So she started reaching out to new real estate and realtors in the area, and telling them what she provides as an education part of it to help them grow their business. So all of a sudden, she's making the calls to the agents, right? And so she's like, "Hey, we're Team Aldrete. We do things different. My job, like her job, is to cater to our real estate agents and help them get better at their job, help them grow," which is not a lot of lenders do that. While I love dealing with the clients, you know, and I have a team that loves dealing with clients, and they're very respectful to clients, and realtors are our referral sources. So, you know, the idea is to continue to create that amazing experience from one end to the other, and be different, right? And so it's kind of created this different vibe, you know, to our team.
Yeah, well, I kind of chuckle because I do the same thing, but I get like emails and texts from you at like 7 p.m. on a Saturday. You know, it's just like, are you just working all the time because you love what you do, or is that just kind of catching up on some stuff on the weekends?
I like to answer quickly to clients if, you know, they have questions, things like that, because believe me, I will forget if I don't take care of it, you know, at that point, because we have so much stuff going on, or I make a note. But if it's a simple deal and we're relaxing, as long as it's not, if I'm with the family, I'm out and about and having dinner, I'll be like, "Hey, I'll text you later," or "I'll call you later." You know, I've always have that respect as well for family time. But if I'm just relaxing, watching a movie, the kids are there, and I got that text, I'm like, I'll just respond. You know, it's not taking attention away from them. So, but yeah, I mean, I do respond as much as I can, and you know, just to make sure that you're getting the information, or the clients are getting the information they need. So.
You bet. And I've heard two terms. I've heard mortgage banker and I've heard mortgage broker. Can you explain like what the difference is, or does it even make a difference really to a customer?
No, to the client, it doesn't make a difference, right? I mean, it's just we're a mortgage company. Either one, it's a mortgage company that does loans, does mortgage loans, and our sole focus is to do mortgages. So we don't have checking account, we don't have savings account, we don't have, you know, any investments accounts. It's just pure mortgages. So a mortgage banker, a company that's just a pure mortgage banker, they have their own underwriters in-house and processing in-house, and they either service the loan or they sell it, you know, to whoever the big investors are. Mortgage services, top mortgage services in the country. And then a mortgage broker, you know, again, we have them, you know, because we work in that kind of hybrid model where we bank loans in our name and we wholesale them as well, broker them out, I would say. And we have investors, they underwrite the file for us. We process it in-house, but they underwrite the file for us. The turn times are the same. The rates, for the most part, in our world as a mortgage banker / mortgage broker, we have really aggressive rates. The reason why is because we have minimal overhead, right? Mortgage banker companies, the big ones, they have a lot of overhead. They have account executives or regional vice presidents or branch managers or business development, whatever the case is. So there's so many layers they got to pay out, right? Plus they're underwriters, they're processors, they're secondary. So they have a bigger operation. So for the most part, their rates tend to be a little bit higher than our end. And it's not a lot. I mean, it can be an eighth, it can be a quarter, it can be 3/8. It just depends what their margins are. But for the client, you know, it's a mortgage company, right? So they don't know any better. If they don't shop around, they'll never see like, oh, somebody else has a quarter better interest rate. Because I have clients going like, hey, this other, I'm a broker and we have aggressive, you know, a broker,
Right.
like I said, broker slash banker, but we have investors. So our pricing is very aggressive. And sometimes depends on the time. If a mortgage company wants to buy the market and reduce their margins so they can get more clients, they're willing to eat it up. That's fine. You
Sure.
know, I mean, we
Yeah.
have a company to maintain, and we want to maintain all our employees happy. They do a phenomenal job. So we got to make a little bit of money, you know, to stay in
Right.
business. So they're like, why is your rate a little bit higher than theirs? It's like, hey, they're willing to do the deal with very little margin. And that's completely acceptable. Everybody buys the market whatever time they want to.
Right.
So
What can you tell us about like a kind of the secondary business? So once a mortgage gets done and it goes out there, is there a secondary exchange? Like, you know, I'm familiar with stock exchanges and stuff, to where those mortgages get listed and then people can buy them off of this secondary exchange, or what can you tell us about kind of a behind the scenes look about how that works?
are you talking about any individual buying that, or about us selling it to our investors for their service?
I guess maybe that's what I'm probably not using the right terms, but after you finish, say my loan, and then I know that my first check goes here, but then my second check goes to somewhere else, right? How does the loan move behind the scenes?
So once we close your loan, let's say I choose Caliber Home Loans, one of our biggest investors, right?
Okay.
With aggressive rates and turn times, whatever the case is. But we close the loan, we keep it in our books, and they have to purchase the loan from us through our warehouse. And so warehouse line. And so that may take 5 to 10 days or 15 days, depends on what those purchase conditions, you know, that they go ahead and let us know what they are. And it may take let's call it 5 to 15 days at the most. So sometimes the client will make that first payment to us while that loan is being purchased. And then, like you said, for the second payment, it goes to that investor that purchased the loan. You're talking about, we have Home Point Financial, we have Caliber Home Loans, we got Flagstar, we got Stern. So they're big mortgage bank, true mortgage bankers, mortgage servicers in the country. And they want to keep those loans for 30 years and make money off of the interest that you're going to pay for that loan.
Sure. That all makes sense. Now I deal with some clients that are older that haven't done a purchase or a refi or anything since before the 2007, 2009, and all the rules that went into effect. So can you just walk us through, for folks that haven't done it in a while, it's such a paperwork requirement, but just kind of talk us through from the time the phone rings and says, hey, I want to do this, all the way through the processing. Talk us through that process and what they're going to need to send you.
Okay. So I do the intro call, and then I basically lead them to our online application, as you know. And then, from there, application takes about 7 to 10 minutes, give or take. They submit that. My team gets notification. My entire team receives a notification that an application has been completed. At that time, every one of my team members knows their role, right? I have a team member that handles all incoming applications. I have another team member that handles the file from beginning of processing till closing. And then I have another team member that will handle whatever, it's kind of like a junior, what we call a junior loan partner to my other two team members, right? Whatever they needs to get done, she'll jump in and help out. So, so a client applies, one of my team members, Lisa Tricky, will take over the file. She'll receive it and say, hey, I've received the application. We pull credit. Everything looks great. We need to confirm income and assets. Here's the requirements. If they're purchasing, we have certain requirements. If they're refinancing, we have certain requirements that we need as well. So we ask for those items via our secure portal, where people can upload them. You can email them as well, but you can upload them directly. That's when we pull them out. And once the client is ready to proceed, whether it's a new purchase or a refinance, there's preliminary disclosures that need to be signed electronically. Once the client does that, we get them and we submit the file to underwriting. Underwriting is all about the underwriter approving the file, issuing what we call a conditional approval, meaning, hey, here's approval, but we need insurance, we need appraisal, title work, all those, again, minor stuff on our end, internal. So we'll go ahead and take care of all those items until we get our final approval. And we're there with you the entire time. And they may require more additional documentation, right? Which
Right.
it does. It is very tedious, but it's a must. And so once we get to that final approval stage, we set closing up. We set the closing up. Typically, we provide a closing disclosure, which is a preliminary closing figures, with the final, but
Right.
it tends to be modified prior to closing just with the correct credits and things that between title and our closing department works to get you that final figure. And so there is a 3-day waiting period from the closing disclosure once it is signed. So we cannot close until after 3 days of that preliminary closing disclosure was signed. And then we set the closing date and time according to what's available to the client. And again, typically that process takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for the most part. Refinances, because we're in a refi boom, it may take 4 to 6 weeks, So again, it just depends on the investors as well. Our strongest investors may be more overloaded with volume because their rates are better, right? So
Okay, that makes sense. And does anything change as the numbers get bigger if you're trying to deal with a $1 million home or a $1.5 million home? Is it all basically the same requirements coming in?
It is. Yeah, nothing changes. It's all the same income documentation, and assets and appraisals, insurance, everything is all the same. Doesn't matter what size of the loan is.
Okay.
So.
All right. And then from you dealing with clients all the time, me being one of them, asking questions, and I will say that Jorge will be quick to correct you and clarify your thinking if you're wrong, because mine was wrong the other day, and he helped me clarify that, so that works. So you can count on him for the straight scoop. What are the common client mistakes or misunderstandings that you end up dealing with folks?
I guess it just varies because everybody has a different situation, different scenario. I think misunderstandings, I would say that people sometimes submit their documentation up front and they believe that this is common sense. Look what was done and it should be accepted the way it was. And you kind of laugh about it because it's true. Yes, it's common sense, but we got to provide whatever the underwriter needs to, paper trail that document, right? And so they expect that what they provided is sufficient, I would say, a lot of the times. So that's why we kind of prep them, in some cases and say, hey, there might be additional requirements from the underwriter after the file is underwritten. And it, for the most part, it's very easy stuff that any client can get, right? For the most part, it is. And so, so I just, if clients don't like it, you're asking for too much, I get involved. I don't let my team handle that. I handle the client, right? In the sense of, hey, let's talk about this. I understand this is frustrating. Believe me, I know. I do it all the time. I have to ask for this information over and over and over again. So nothing to get upset about. Just provide us this information and we'll get your deal to closing. That's the only way they're going to give us a final approval. And, they turn around, send the information in and get the deal closed, And
so that's that. All right. Well, good. Well, thank you for all the information you've provided. If you were to mentor somebody that's listening, either, or if you could go back in time and mentor yourself, or, if you had a room full of 20 young folks that wanted to go into the industry, what would you say to them?
Get a mentor, find somebody, look for it. Coaching, look for the experts in the industry that you're in that are doing a difference, right? A significant difference in impact. I wish I would known, of course, a lot of things I do know now, because this things existed. Is just sometimes you're not willing to. You're barely making it, right? But you're not willing to take a little bit to invest in yourself a little bit more. So do it. That's definitely a must. You have to invest a little bit of coaching, into it for somebody, because it pays off quickly. Within 6 months, you start seeing a huge difference, in your production or whatever it is that you're doing, right? But you're becoming better. And the other thing is, don't limit yourself. I did for years, right? I mean, I believe that my wife mentioned it yesterday. She's like, do you remember when you told me that you probably will never make more than $70,000 in a year? And it was a limit. I came from Mexico. So when I had a salary of $50,000, I made it, man.
Right.
And with commission, I was at 70. Like I was happy. I would be happy no matter what. Right. I mean, but that's not the point. The point is, we have this talent, this potential inside of us, and we just don't know what it is until we truly want to explore it. And I mean, the world's completely different. I see my job and my career and everybody else's, completely different. I have one of our partners. He's a partner in the company, minority partner, and he's like, man, I feel. And this was this past week. He goes, he's 32 years old, right? And he's like, I feel like I'm behind. And I'm like, to what? Compared to me? I was like, I'm not a comparison. I said, that other individual's not a comparison. I said, you're ahead of us when you're 32 years old. You're way ahead of where I was at that point. So don't compare yourself to me. So comparison is the beginning. Basically what does it say is comparison is the beginning of not being content, right? Because you're comparing yourself over. And so I would just say, be open to what you're going to be able to find about yourself, because see that quote right there? I love that. Yeah. It's, once you become fearless, life becomes limitless. I was afraid of success, or I believe that I did not, what's the word that I'm trying to say? I didn't deserve success. Okay. I believe, and it may have been my religious beliefs that, you shouldn't, love money or whatever, whatever the case is, right? Everybody has their beliefs growing up, but man, I had a lot of limits and I had to work through them. I had to push through. And it wasn't until for me, it was late in the sense of I was 36, 37 years old when I just stopped I stopped having fear of what I could accomplish. And what I've known, that was 6 years ago. And so what I've known now, and what I keep unfolding and opening up, it's like I opened up this door that has a never ending path. And along the way, you're just picking up extra tools to continue to get to the other step, right? To the other level. And it's pretty awesome. So that's what I would tell. I mean, anybody that starts, I love talking to younger individuals. I'm like, work hard and learn as much as you can, because you don't know where you're going to end up in, but always be willing to, be work your butt off,
Yeah. So, well, I love you sharing that story. So thank you for being as candid about, your path. And I saw it all the time in the military. You would see such young talent, but trying to unlock the talent and get the person to believe in themselves and be able to take it to the next level was always the challenge. And you're right. It's like a miracle when you just see somebody just blossom into what amazing. They could be. And it's just like, that's an amazing story. Yes. So for folks that are listening that want to work with you, or just maybe they want to ask you a question or something, what are some of the ways they can get a hold of you?
So typically an email, it's always great, just because we're always, my whole team is available, whether if I can answer right away, everybody gets that email. So it's at teamaldrete@efgtx.com, and that's team as a sports team, TEAM, and then my last name, Aldrete, ALDRETE, @efgtx.com. That's always a great way to reach out to me. Okay. My cell phone number, 512-699-5267. I get a lot of calls during the day, so I may not answer right away, but if it's a text, I can answer pretty quickly, right? So
yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Text, I can always answer quick. And then, my website is my name, jorgealdrete.com. People want to get to know a little bit about me, what we do, programs, who my team is. That's a way to start.
All right.
So,
well,
we'd love to help everybody out.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know it can be crazy to carve that piece of time out, but thank you for doing that for us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me here.
You bet. To our listeners out there, hopefully you got a lot from learning from not only about the mortgage industry, but about Jorge's personal journey. So you can help, whatever career field you're in, help you kind of unlock yourself as well to meet those financial goals that you have. So thanks for listening in, and here's to you staying on time, on target with your financial and your career goals. Talk to you next time.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we're off air now. I'll stop the